Hello, and thank you for joining our webinar today. Crystalline Shelton is going to be hosting this webinar, and I will let her take it away.
Thanks, Morgan. So welcome everyone to how to make the transition from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online. My name is Crystalline Shelton, and I will be your facilitator for this webinar. So before we dive in, we'd love to know who's joining us today. So if you could just put in the chat window, whether you're an instructor, a trainer, a student, or even a small business owner, we'd love to have that information so that we know who our audience is today. So Morgan, who do we have joining us today?
We've got all instructors.
Oh, awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so this is Ed Thaney. He is managing partner of Thaney and Associates. And today we have in his place, Morgan Alexander will be giving you more information about our company.
Thanks, Crystalline. Yes, as Crystalline mentioned, I'm Morgan Alexander. I'm the Director of Business Development, overseeing the marketing and business development for all of the companies you see listed on the screen. Our parent company is Thaney and Associates CPA, which is a CPA firm with offices in New York and Florida. We perform work for clients in over 36 states, currently for tax and accounting, auditing, and many other accounting services. We also own a franchise of supporting strategies where we're able to offer virtual bookkeeping and CFO services for small businesses with bookkeepers and government accounting specialists all throughout the country. Additionally, we own a franchise of Transworld Business Advisors where we help clients that would like to buy or sell a business. We have certified valuation analysts on staff providing valuations and due diligence work, mergers and acquisitions, etc. Biz Collection is another one of our entities, which is a third-party debt collection company assisting with bankruptcy alternatives and debt restructuring for small businesses. And last but not least, we have Clear Choice Capital, which is a third-party small business loan agency helping to facilitate SBA loans, equipment loans, lines of credit, and many other small business financing needs. I know that's a lot of information, so if anybody feels like they would like some more info on anything mentioned, please feel free to offer up. We do offer complimentary consultations for anyone that does join our webinar if you're interested in any of our other services. But as mentioned, TLR does fall under this umbrella, and Crystalline will take it away so you can learn a little bit more about why you're here today.
Thanks, Morgan. All right, so I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, and we will dive into our agenda for today. My role here is I am the content strategist here at TLR. And basically what that means is I'm responsible for keeping all of our QuickBooks textbooks up to date, as well as creating new textbooks. A little bit later on, we'll talk about one of our latest textbooks that we have is getting started with QuickBooks Online. So I joined TLR back in August of 2019. I am a licensed certified public accountant, and I am certified advanced in both QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. I have more than 20 years experience in the accounting field and more than 10 years experience working with small business owners. And I also am an adjunct instructor at UCLA Extension, where I teach bookkeeping and QuickBooks courses. So here's our agenda for today. We are going to discuss the timeline to transition to QuickBooks Online. I've created a checklist just to help you with staying on track of basically what needs to be done to have a smooth transition, I'm going to introduce you to the Educator Portal. It is a website that Intuit has created to help educators keep track of their students and to have access to their students' QuickBooks Online files. We are also going to talk about our QuickBooks textbook, which is called Get Started with QuickBooks Online. And so we'll walk through the case study that's used in that textbook. We're going to talk about the benefits to you as instructors, and then we'll also share with you the table of contents. Also, I want to encourage instructors to sign up to receive a review copy of our QuickBooks Online textbook. You can do that by going to our website and applying for instructor status. Once you are approved, you can order the textbook at no cost to you. And after this webinar, Morgan will be sending out the links to apply for instructor status and a few other helpful resources that we'll share with you today. We are going to also offer what we call QuickBooks Online Crash Course for instructors and trainers. We're still in the planning stages of that, but our hope is to offer that starting in March. We know many instructors and trainers have been teaching QuickBooks Desktop for a number of years and may not be familiar with QuickBooks Online. I've taught QuickBooks Desktop for, I guess, more than 10 years. I've taught QuickBooks Online for probably the last 3 or 4 years. So I'm very familiar with, some of the frustration or the pain points that you may encounter as an instructor with making the transition. But I promise you will, once you make the transition, you'll love it. We've got plenty of time for questions and answers throughout. So go ahead, if you have a question, drop it in the chat box. Morgan is monitoring that, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. So with that said, let's talk about the timeline for transition. Many of you probably received an email from Intuit announcing that they were going to stop providing education licenses for QuickBooks Desktop. And so I'm referring to QuickBooks Desktop. In these PowerPoints, you'll see is QBD, that's QuickBooks Desktop. And so they announced this back in December of last year. So beginning, or I guess the first deadline is anyone who is currently using a license for QuickBooks Desktop 2019, you will no longer be able to request licenses as of May 31st of this year, 2022. So currently they're still offering those licenses, but May 31st, they cut it off for the 2019 desktop product. The deadline for requesting a license for QuickBooks Desktop 2020 and 2021 is July 31st of this year. And the final date here is basically all educators should plan to be using QuickBooks Online by the fall semester or quarter, depending on the institution where you are at. So this is just like a high-level timeline of what you're looking at to transition over. This is a checklist of things that you need to do to prepare to teach QuickBooks Online. So in order to properly prepare for this transition, you will need to first sign up for a QuickBooks Online education account. And you can do this by visiting the Intuit website. The email that we'll send you after this webinar will include the link that you need to go ahead and sign up for your account with Intuit. Next, you need to get familiar with the Educator Portal. I will be introducing you to that portal today. I'll show you some of the resources available in there. I'll do a quick demonstration on how you can add a class and add your students and manage them. I've been using that portal probably for the last 6 months. It's a great tool. I think you'll really like it. I think it's something that Intuit should have done a long time ago, but I'm glad it's available now. You need to also or you will have access to the QuickBooks Online test drive account. So those of you that aren't familiar with this is a sample company file that Intuit has already created. It has transactions, it has data in it. And the company that they've used is a landscaping company. So you can access this test drive from the Educator Portal, and I'll show you how to do that when I demonstrate that a little bit later on. The most important thing on this checklist is you need to learn how to use QuickBooks Online. There are a number of ways to learn how to use the product. Like I said, we're going to be offering webinars starting in March. They're going to be more like a crash course for you to get familiar with the software. And then I think it's a good idea for you to go ahead and order our textbook, QuickBooks Online textbook, go through those exercises, get familiar with what your students would be encountering when they actually sign up for your course. And so if you do decide to adopt our textbook, it's a good idea to go ahead and just use that as a guide to learn how to use the product, as well as sign up for our webinars that we'll be offering. And so, yeah, this is just a short checklist. There's probably other things that you can do, but these are the main things that I definitely suggest that you keep in mind. All right, so now what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and switch over to the Educator Portal. So I'll have to stop sharing for a second. And okay, so Morgan, can you see am I sharing the Educator Portal? Just want to make sure I switched over.
I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So after you sign up with Intuit for your Educator account, you will have access to what I mentioned as the Educator Portal. So within here, there's many different resources that are just fabulous. So the first section here, demo companies. Intuit allows you as an instructor to create up to 5 demo companies within here. So you can create 5 different QuickBooks Online accounts that you can use in your classroom to demonstrate various things with your students. You also have access to the QuickBooks Online test drive that I mentioned a few minutes ago, and we'll jump over there in just a second. You've got your Pro Advisor training materials. So these are just additional training materials that you could use if you wanted to. There's information on the QuickBooks Certified User exam. And so one of the things that many students like to do, or accountants as well, is they like to get certified in QuickBooks by taking this user exam, certified user exam. This proves to future employers that they are knowledgeable about the QuickBooks software. And the nice thing about our textbook, Get Started with QuickBooks Online, is we have met all of the objectives that are covered on this exam. So our textbook is sort of a study guide, if you will, for this exam. They've got a video here that you can watch to, so it gives you a high level of how the portal works. And then they also have a link with tutorials. So tutorials here, these are about anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes in length, and they cover the basics of QuickBooks Online. And so they kind of teach you some of the real basic things that you need to know about QuickBooks Online. And of course, you can share those tutorial videos with your students as well. They're very light, they don't go in depth. So while I think they're great, I think you definitely need to go deeper in your learning of QuickBooks Online by instead of just watching these video tutorials. So they're more like a supplemental learning tool, if you will. So I'm on the home page right now. If I click on classes, oh, it'll sign me out. I think I was logged in for a while, and so it's probably time for me to log out and log back in. So hopefully this will be quick. There we go. All right. So on the classes tab, you have the ability to add your classes here at the top. So as you can see, I have 2 classes currently that are already set up. Within these classes, you'll have your students here. And so the way this works is you first add a class. And so you simply just put the name of your class. So I typically just put the name of my class, which is, accounting using QuickBooks. I might put the course number, or I might put the semester, like fall 2022 or something like that. And then you'll check this if it applies, and you'll click add class. Once you click add class, it'll show up as a tab like these 2 here show up. Then once you add a class, you want to add a student. And so you can add students by clicking on this field. You can manually add your students. You'll need their first name, last name, and their email address. Or you can actually import your student roster. If you have it saved as a CSV or an XLS file, then you can easily import it instead of doing the manual thing. So once you enter your students in here, they'll be listed here, and then that'll give you the ability to give them access to a company file. So you basically control their access to QuickBooks Online. So as you can see here, what happens is when let's see, these all say send invitation. Let me go to the other class and see. If I click on this student, yeah. And so when you select the student under actions, you can say send new company invitation. And so when I do that, I can name the company that I want it to be, or I can give them access to a company maybe I've already created and given students access to. So you control that. You'll see, actually, let me just do that so you can see the preview of the invitation. So this is what the email will look like for the student. It'll tell them that your instructors invited you, and you as an instructor actually can customize this message. So this button that says edit email content, you can come in here and personalize this. You can change these instructions if you don't like them. But this is a guide for your student so that they can definitely accept the invitation, which they need to do. And then they'll have the ability to create a password for their account. So typically what will happen is their email address will be their user ID, and then they'll be able to create a password. Once a student accepts the invitation, you will have access to their company file. And so instead of saying invitation sent, which that's what it's going to say until they accept it, once they accept, you'll just see the name of the company. And so when you click on this, you can actually go directly into the QuickBooks Online account for your student. So if they're having an issue or they can't figure something out and you want to take a look to see what they've done, voila, it's that simple. So they don't have to actually give you any kind of access. You'll have it already. And so this comes up, and then you can take a look at what you need to for that. So what else is on this tab? I think that's it. How to add a class, how to add a student, how to give them access. So students, if you guys recall, the education licenses for desktop were 120-day licenses. So I think that's about 6 months. Students get access to QuickBooks Online for 1 full year. So that's plenty of time to complete your average course in QuickBooks, plus they have access, to continue practicing in it long after the class is over, which is nice. The last tab in the Educator Portal is called Demo Companies. So I mentioned to you that instructors can create up to 5 demo companies. Again, this is nice because you can actually use it as screen shares to demonstrate to students what you want them to do. You can plan to create your own unique course, or just, create a course answer key, right, by adding data as well. So these company files are not for you to send to your students. These are for your training and instruction purposes only. So as you can see, I've used 2 out of the total 5 demo companies that I have available to me. All right. Let me go back to the home page. So Morgan, are there any questions so far?
Nothing so far. Seems to be
Okay.
smooth sailing.
Okay, thank you. The other thing I wanted to show you here is the QuickBooks Online test drive tool. So as an educator, you will have a link in your portal that'll take you quickly over to this company file. So as I mentioned, this is a company file that's maintained by Intuit. It's a sample file. It's a fictitious business, but it's got data in it. So this fictitious business is called Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. And so what's nice about this is you can actually use this company file to demonstrate how to enter specific transactions, or your students can use this to practice in as well. So while you're logged into this company file, your data will be saved. Once you log out, everything that you've done will go away, right? Because this is just a sample file. It's not meant for your data to continue to stay in there. Everybody and anybody uses this to practice. So it's available to anyone. You don't have to have a QuickBooks subscription or anything like that. And several of the exercises that we have included in our QuickBooks textbook, our QuickBooks Online textbook, will utilize this test drive company file. So I'll close out of that. I think that is pretty much it when it comes to the Intuit Educator Portal. As I said, you've got to go to the Intuit Educator website to sign up for your educator account. And we will be sure to send you the link so that you can do that. So I'm going to jump back over to my presentation real quick. And then I want to share with you some information on our textbook that we have. All right, here we go. All right, so back to my presentation here. Our QuickBooks Online textbook is called Get Started with QuickBooks Online. It is available for you to order now. And since all of you are instructors, it is available for you to order at no cost. So make sure you go to our website, apply to be an instructor, and then once you are approved, you will be able to order your copy of this textbook. It is a beginner's guide to QuickBooks Online. We've included really very simple step-by-step practice exercises both within the chapter and at the end of the chapter so that students can get, that hands-on practice. For instructors, trainers, and accounting students, it includes the behind-the-scenes debits and credits for, key transactions. For anyone who's not an accountant, we've also included a chapter on accounting basics. Throughout the textbook, we use a fictitious company called Luxury Lodging, Inc. And this company is owned by Larry Owens. He owns properties in Texas and California that he rents to vacationers. It's very similar to an Airbnb. Learners will play the role of a bookkeeper who manages Larry's books. And your students will have the opportunity to create a company file, enter income and expenses, run reports, and do much more. Business owners, we don't have any on this call, but if you're a business owner, business owners can still follow the instructions using their real business information instead of the information provided for luxury lodging if they choose to. Benefits for you as an instructor. You will have free access to the QuickBooks Online Accountant and Intuit Educator Portal. There is no cost to you as an instructor to request that access, and there is no expiration date. We've got practice exercises at the end of each chapter that you can use to assign to students for homework, or they can do it within the classroom. We will provide you access to the answer key for all end of chapter exercises. And again, I can't say it enough, in order to get your hands on this book and also the answer keys, you will need to be an instructor. And then when you log into, once you have instructor status, you can log in as an instructor, and then you will have access to the answer keys for these exercises. We've also included a final project in our textbook, and that can actually be used as a final exam, basically just to test the overall student comprehension of the concepts that they've learned within the book. Benefits for your students. As I mentioned, they will have free access to a QuickBooks Online trial account for 1 year. They'll get hands-on practice for each concept that we teach in the book. And as I mentioned, the final project will be the overall testing of the concepts that were taught in the entire book. I mentioned this as well, that students who are looking to sit for the QuickBooks Certified User Exam, this is a great study guide for them and a great way to prepare to sit for that certification exam. So I know we don't have any business owners on this call, but in case business owners tune into the recording later, the benefits for you are we've got step-by-step reference guide for you so you can set up your business in QuickBooks Online. We don't use fancy accounting language or jargon. We use simple, easy to understand language to explain concepts. You've got the chapter on accounting basics to get you up to speed with what you need to know. And then we also have included tips and guidance on best practices to follow. So here is a snapshot of our table of contents in the textbook. We've got a total of 14 chapters. The first chapter is just an introduction, and it basically goes through and provides some background on QuickBooks Online, explains the differences between using QuickBooks Online versus QuickBooks Desktop, which can be helpful. A lot of the terminology and the language used in QuickBooks Desktop, it translates to QuickBooks Online. So the nice thing is if you've got experience with QuickBooks Desktop, you're not going to be starting from scratch, and it's not going to take you long to get up to speed on QuickBooks Online. The key with the QuickBooks Online software is just learning how to navigate the program, right? Because when you record an invoice in QuickBooks Online, it has the same effect on the books as when you record it in QuickBooks Desktop, right? No difference. It's just how you do it. The mechanics is the only thing that's different. We've got the second chapter covers, basic QuickBooks Online navigation. Chapter 3 is that chapter I mentioned to you about the accounting basics for those of you that don't have accounting or bookkeeping background. In chapter 4, learners will be able to set up a new company file, and then, set up the chart of accounts in chapter 5, and products and services in chapter 6. Chapter 7 covers managing users. One of the reasons why many people really like QuickBooks Online is because it's easy to give other people access to the data. So there is no backing up the file and emailing it or transferring it to, a CD or anything like that. If you need to give your accountant or your tax preparer access, you simply send them an invitation. Similar to what I showed you in the Educator Portal. All you need is their name and their email address. You send them an invitation with the level of access that you want them to have. QuickBooks allows you to do that. And so in Chapter 7, we show you how to do that, how to give other users access to your data. Chapter 8 covers the Sales Center, which involves creating invoices and managing your accounts receivable. Chapter 9 covers the Vendor Center, which includes managing your vendors and bills and accounts payable. Chapter 10 goes through the 1099 tracking and reporting for independent contractors that you may hire. Chapter 11, we cover how to keep track of those business bank and credit card accounts and how to manage those transactions. Chapter 12 covers the financial statement reports and showing you how to run those and that sort of thing. Chapter 13, if you are transitioning from an old accounting software, or even maybe QuickBooks Desktop, you'll need to establish some historical data and some opening balances. And so in Chapter 13, we cover like the proper order of entering that information and getting it into QuickBooks Online from your old system. And then that 14, that final chapter, is the final project that I've mentioned a few times, where the students get to put it all together. Everything that they've learned in the previous chapters will be tested and covered in that final project, which is Chapter 14. So with that said, as I mentioned, as instructors, you guys can order the book once you're approved as an instructor. Your students can purchase the book for $69, or you can have your bookstore place an order with us. I believe, and Morgan, correct me if I'm wrong, if you wanted to place an order for books, it would need to be sent to this email address, sales@tlr-inc.com. So
you can also purchase the book directly on our website. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, perfect. So they can do purchase in bulk? Like if they wanted to purchase?
You can purchase multiple on the website, or obviously you can reach out to us, like Crystal said, and we can help facilitate the order.
Fabulous. All right, so what questions do you guys have for me?
We do have a couple questions that have come through so far, and I'll be watching our chat box in case any others pop up. But our first question is, how much does it cost for instructors to get access to QBO?
So QBO is free for instructors. So basically, all you have to do is apply for instructor status. And once you apply for instructor status through Intuit, or I should say they call it educator status, I believe, you'll get access to QuickBooks Online for free. There's no expiration date, so you'll always have access to QuickBooks Online as an educator. The key with registering as an educator with Intuit is you need to make sure you use your, what do you call it? Your email, you can't even think, your email that was given to you by the school, right? So I use my UCLA email address to register as an educator with Intuit, because that'll get you registered faster than just using a regular email, because then they have to go through another verification process.
Perfect, thank you. Next question, what if we don't want to make the switch to QuickBooks Online? Can we stick with desktop, or is that going away?
There have been so many rumors about desktop going away. And now they've taken away the licenses, which kind of seems like it's going away. But Intuit typically will support, not typically, they do, as far as I know, will support the desktop product for 3 years. So technically, you could continue to use QuickBooks Desktop 2021, right, until they stop supporting it, which would be like 2024, right? But ideally, you know, no one really wants to teach from an old software. So I would say if you didn't want to make the switch right away, at some point you're going to need to make the switch, or your school is going to have to be okay with having students purchase the software on their own, right? Because that is another option. They're still coming out with new versions of desktop. So they did come out with QuickBooks Desktop 2022. We even have a desktop 2022 textbook. It's called Get Smart with QuickBooks. So we created a textbook for 2022. We included the new features. The only thing is, instead of having a free license, students have to purchase the software now. So you can certainly stay with desktop. Just keep in mind that it won't be something that's free to you as an instructor or the student any longer.
Perfect, thanks. And then what appears to be our last question, what's the quickest way for me to learn how to use QuickBooks Online?
Yeah, great question. You know, I'm the type of person that just likes to log in and get in there and navigate around. If you have experience with desktop, you will be able to learn QuickBooks Online pretty quickly. But what I will say is, if you go ahead and order our textbook, it's a great way to get introduced to the software, as well as get introduced to what your students are going to be doing, right? If you adopt our book, you'll be familiar with the exercises. So I would say you could use that. You can also watch the video tutorials to get some familiarity. You know, those are in the Educator Portal that I showed you earlier. And then finally, if you just, you know, want a little hand-holding, we are going to be conducting QuickBooks Online crash course webinars, and they're going to be limited specifically to trainers and instructors, because I want to be able to speak to people who will be teaching this, right? I'm an instructor. I know what the pain points are, and I'd like to be able to point things out that you need to point out to your students, or that you need to be aware of as an instructor that will come up. So that is another option. We are still in the planning stages for that, so we don't have dates yet, but keep a lookout for our email, or send an email to us, and then we can actually provide you with additional information once we have it, for sure. Great questions. So if that is it,
yep, that's it.
Yeah, thanks everyone for taking the time out to join us today. Don't hesitate to reach out and email us with any questions. I've got tons of experience with making this transition, and I can help you through it for sure. So thanks everyone, and have an awesome rest of your day.